and they employed many tens of thousands of people. And the government nationalised it and took it from them with no consideration, and so they were completely wiped out. They then started again in 1980, 10 years later, and they now have a bank called Habib Bank AG in Zurich, and the balance sheet is around $9 billion, and they have 19 public companies around the world. They have a family council, they have a shareholders agreement. In fact, in London, last year in Dubai, I delivered the case study with Mr. Rafiq Habib, explaining their family structures and how they got round, how they deal with the Sharia, and how the shareholders agreement works and how the council works. And they have a completely organised system that handles it. So it can be done. In fact, we're doing the case study again at a seminar in London in June. And Mr. Habib goes around the world now talking to large families about how to do this stuff, because he's been there, he's done it, he's got the t-shirt. And they have about 67 members of their family when they get together, and everybody knows where they stand, everybody knows what they get, everybody knows what they can do. And the Sharia is clearly there, but you can contract out of it if you want to while you're alive. So if you want to give assets to your daughters while you're alive, you can do that, as I understand it, and that's what people do.
Thank you very much. Can you just summarize in brief the challenges facing family businesses in the Gulf?
In the Gulf, I think it's to do with the fact that I've experienced something that I was introduced to some years ago. It's called Arab democracy. And the idea that was explained to me by a particular gentleman who I will not name, but he sat me down and he explained that this particular company had 5 shareholders, and the 5 shareholders were very happy. He was very happy for the 5 shareholders to make whatever decisions they like, but Arab democracy means that he decides. And so the challenge in the Gulf, as I see it, is the fact that the elder generation, because they have so much power, because they're so respected, it means that nobody communicates with them honestly. And because they respect them so much, the respect actually gets in the way of honest and open communication. Now, I have a slightly different view because I'm a Westerner, but I learned something from a businessman who explained to me once, who was a very blunt talker. And he said, if you talk to somebody and you don't tell them the truth, it's not respecting them. Telling somebody the truth as you see it is actually showing them respect. They might not like what you say, but if you tell them the truth, that is more respectful than telling them a lie. And I think the challenge in the Gulf is that the heritage that you have about the respect for elders, the way in which you define what that means, is philosophically difficult because it stops people telling the truth as they see it. So therefore, the communication that takes place within the family is not completely honest. And I've seen that because I've been a fly on the wall. I've been in the helicopter, and I know what people think in different circumstances, and I know they're not talking. But not talking and not telling the truth to each other is actually the problem. That's the biggest challenge, because if you can't have honest conversation that you don't get shot for, you don't get penalized for, then how are you going to legitimize the whole enterprise? And I think it's a very difficult. I think it's a really difficult problem. Succession is the same problem anywhere in the world. That's not specifically to the Gulf. Succession is always a problem. In the Gulf, it may be more of a problem because socially, people want to be connected with their business. They want a business card that says that they're the chairman, and if they're not the chairman, it means there's something wrong. I understand all of that, but that's the same in India, that's the same in China, that's the same in some European countries. So I don't see that that's special to the Gulf. It may be a little bit, but this point about ability to tell the truth as you see it, out of respect, and what happens is it's a dilemma because you can't, because to do so would be disrespectful.
Why is it that you think it is going to be suspected? There is some taboos in the family that you are not allowed to talk about because it is, well, maybe that is correct, taboos. But to not, it depends on how you present it to the elders. The elders, usually the elders, therefore you have the respect. But in my company, for example, or my family, yes, we are respectful, but we argue. I mean, I know Khalid Zayani will argue, but he has great respect for his father. But he tells them as it is, and I'm sure everybody is the same. Muhammad here is also the same thing. But I don't think that if they are not being honest, then something is wrong. Then you are right, if they are. But there are those that say what they think it is. You know, if the elders don't agree, like my uncle might not, but that doesn't mean that it's what we call there's an honest disagreement. I might say something, and then my uncle say, no, I don't agree. But we may argue.
Yeah, that arguing is good. Arguing is good. It's healthy. Because if you're arguing, you have a position, and you might not agree. But I'm talking about the cases where you can't say what you want to say out of respect. And when you find that you can't say what you want to say out of respect, you have to look at what it is, what's really going on there. That's my point. Arguing is good.
None of the family members are CEOs.
Are CEOs?
None.
Okay. So they're owner strategists, not owner managers.
Well, they work. They have to be first well educated, working experience outside the country.
Right.
Then they come in, and there are milestones of achievements within the group till they reach the level of a CEO. And once they reach that standard, that level, then they shift into the ownership group. In the ownership group, their role is to act like guardians to companies.
Which is great.
Not CEOs. Each company is run by a CEO who is the most professional we can find. And the CEO presents to the board of his company his business plan, his budgets, his targets, and he runs the business as if it is his own. Once he achieves his results, they start earning bonuses. So they are also self-motivated. The Zayani member, who is looking after that company, the guardian, his job is to open doors for that CEO.
Ambassadorial.
Yes, of course they can't do everything as a CEO. And help him in the growth of the company. So the company expands with the support of its board and the assigned Zayani member.
Brilliant.
Now, each company does not pay all profits to the mother company. What they do is retain 50% of their profit in each company. And this remains for them to operate and expand in their own way. So every company has its own culture, its own character, and they often compete with each other in the marketplace. But we have looked at the conflict within family by separating ownership from management.
Exactly.
The other role for ownership is to create new business. They are experienced, and they have working experience before, and they have the ability and freedom, and they are expected to produce new business.
Well, it sounds like a very, very good model. I couldn't fault any of what you said because it clearly works, but it sounds like you've done a lot of thinking and you had a lot of cooperation to do that. It sounds like a very good model.
I would like...
Before I have a question, but before I like to state that in Bahrain, in the Arab world, women are the people who are losing out. Many family businesses in Bahrain and in the Gulf, the father, the first generation, the father who make the family business, he does not bring his daughters in the business. And there are many families in Bahrain like this. But you know what makes me wonder, then the second generation, they bring their daughters to the business. So how come, you know, the uncle and aunties lose, the aunties lose, and then the nieces and nephews, they become partner in the business. And also, if the father decides and he's kind enough to give his daughters, he always gives the daughter half the son, which is not supposed to be. The Sharia is after he dies, but if he is alive and his daughters are doing well in business, he should give them equally. And we feel as women, we feel it's not fair, you know, because women and men, if they work in the business, they should get equal rights. And that's why, you know, I personally, I feel with my children, I want to give them equally, whether a boy or a girl. And but my question, this is not my question, my question, it's a bit long. My question is, in your experience, because you deal with many family businesses, what do the family businesses do better and grow bigger than public businesses, or the family business have a better future or not? You know, because we in our family, I'm against going public, but I know some of my brothers and sisters, they would like to go public. I'm against it, because I feel family businesses can do much better, and they can look at the, you know, the long view more than public businesses, where they look year to year at their financials and try to please the stakeholders.
Okay, well, I think that you would expect me to say that family businesses do better long term if they're not public. And I think that if necessary, I could prove that by looking at the value created over many years in different countries and some of the research that's been done. Because a family business that goes public in a short space of time no longer is a family business. And if you look at a company like Mars, the confectionery business, they argued about going, but they would never go public. And the most successful family businesses don't go public. People only go public if there is an absolutely insatiable desire to get hold of cash. The only reason you go public is access to cash and nothing else. And if the cash is to exit people from the business, then you have to ask yourself why you're doing it. So I have a very simple view. And in fact, I put an article in the Times. The Times in London did a supplement last week, and it's a 6-page pull-out supplement, and I had to do the debate arguing for the family capitalism as a model against corporate capitalism. And there's no doubt in my mind that family capitalism is a better long-term model. As regards the point you make about the Sharia, it isn't the first time I've heard somebody say pretty much exactly what you've said. And I'm afraid I think it's a very difficult area. But what I have found is that a lot of people who are involved in an Islamic culture often don't tell the truth about what they're going to do with their shares or what they've done with their shares. And I've met many businessmen who say to the family, oh, everything is going to be done in accordance with the Sharia. And then when you sit down with them after a year or two and they begin to trust you, you find that actually they've signed something that actually overrules that, but they're too frightened to say something publicly to their family that actually they've done this. And I see this all over the place, both with Sharia-based families and India. India as well, exactly the same thing. There's no equivalent of the Sharia law there, but the Indians tell everybody that the girls don't get anything, but ultimately they do. And I think that, again, this is about being honest about what's happening. And I've just finished a case at the moment where the father has got 5 children, he's got 3 daughters and 2 boys. the youngest daughter is the cleverest of all of them, and she's basically running the whole show. She's 28, and she's much, much, much cleverer than all of her sisters and her older brothers. And the father has said to the 5 children, I'm not going to decide how you're going to divide the assets, you decide. So I got given the children for 2 years for them to work out how they would split up a very, very substantial inheritance between the 5 of them. And he said to them, whatever your decision, I will back. And the reason he did it was that he was fearful that if he carried on a Sharia basis, he would penalize the 28-year-old girl who's doing everything and over-reward the sons. On the other hand, because she's a lot younger than the sons had been promised that it was going to be on a Sharia basis, because that's the basis that they assumed. So you imagine the conflict with that sibling group as to how to do that. Anyway, they've done it, and they just had a big celebration a few weeks ago to do it, and they're not doing it on a Sharia basis, they're doing it on an equal basis, and the only thing they've changed is how they make a decision, because the boys felt that with 2 boys and 3 girls, they would always be outvoted. So in order for them to make a decision, they have to have at least 1 boy in the team that is for a decision. So I've seen it many times, and it's an impossibly difficult subject, but one that you have to deal with honestly. Oh, thank you very much indeed.
Here we are.
Very
What
nice.
a wonderful thing that we give.
That's gorgeous.
What is تعلمني so sponsor look it's it's professor. You have to hold it.
Oh.
It's very good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.